Man, after finally wrapping up Hideous Afterglow, I desperately need to play something less stressful. Actually, it's been a good few months since I made that AMC review. Might be good to get some footage of another free boomer shooter mod thing. You know, shorter snackier levels than HD to keep all the file sizes small and the durations pretty low.
Why are we still here? Just to suffer?
Fuck my life again!
I've never been an intense fan of the Quake franchise, but I really like the first one. Movement is fast and smooth, and the sounds are crunchy and distinct. Dodging grenades by the skin of my teeth never gets old, and the way the camera tilts left and right as I juke helps with getting into a flow state. And I always know what enemies are around me based on the noises they make. But I did always have a couple big problems with Quake 1. Despite the premise being about hopping through dimensions, I never got that feeling from it. Largely because the different episodes felt like the same levels, just with swapped textures. There's more monster variety than I thought there was, but how they're used and how infrequently makes it not feel that way. Also, the big bads just suck ass as bosses go. Thankfully, Arcane Dimensions exists. For those not in the know, Arcane Dimensions is something of a total conversion mod for the original Quake, and I consider it one of those mods for a classic game that can just wholesale replace the vanilla experience, up there with things like Stalker Anomaly, Duke Nukem Alien Armageddon, the Hell on Earth Starter Pack, or Death Wish for Blood as examples. All of vanilla Quake is still here. The crunchy sound effects, the simple guns you know and love, the chaotic fights, and the ability to lead around vor projectiles that have utterly bullshit seeking abilities. All vanilla levels are still accessible and perfectly playable, but for one caveat I've discovered, which I'll get to in a minute. I should also point out I'm playing on what I believe to just be the basic old version of the Quake Spasm port, but I can't be sure. Since the last time I properly fooled around with Quake source ports a couple years ago, I could have just overwritten the original files with Quake Spasm Spiked. The devs actually recommend Quake Spasm Spiked, now forked into Quake Spasm Spiked Multiplayer, but it also works with Dark Places and a couple of other source ports. The premise of Arcane Dimensions is really simple. Just play levels. 4 levels in particular hold the 4 runes of magic, which when collected will allow you access to a hidden dev credits level, although that is hardly where the game ends. Where it stops being simple is in its aesthetics and combat encounter design, as well as the super secrets and mini-maps. To get it out of the way, and because it's going to be really short, I will front load this review with the very few bad or annoying things about Arcane Dimensions. Firstly, the caveat I mentioned about the original levels. I said you still collect the 4 magic runes in Arcane Dimensions just like in the vanilla episodes. However, this also locks off those episodes as it would in vanilla. Additionally, if you manage to sneak into an episode, either with cheats or by entering and then finishing one of the handful of replacement levels like S1M1, you'll be put into the vanilla episode. This will appear fine for a little while, but at the end of the episode, you'll be unable to pick up the rune. For example, at the end of episode 1, this means Catan doesn't spawn and you can't finish the level without cheats. It's not a huge issue, but don't say you weren't warned. Finally, some levels can get absurdly intertwined and maze-like and confusing, particularly the first time you ever play them, which is exacerbated by Quake's lack of any kind of auto map.
There's got to be a better way.
It's not inherently a bad thing, not every game needs to have an auto map, but it might cause some people frustration, especially if you're set on trying to find some of those super secrets or all of the secrets. Now, with that out of the way, let's get into the good shit. AD has a couple new monster fuckers. The Widowmaker is a triple-barreled shotgun that'll help you munch through big bastards and thoughtlessly delete zombie-type enemies. There's also a Doom-style plasma gun, replacing the lightning gun a lot of the time, and usually indicating the level is about to go to shit, or at least found very close to the end before the final encounter or two. The shotguns are all projectile weapons now instead of hit scan, but they shouldn't be too noticeable unless you try to do something like snipe a small enemy at a distance. You additionally get a new axe, which you can find placed very obviously in the hub map. It seems to do about as much damage as a perfect double-barrel shotgun hit, and very importantly, it can jib corpses. It floats above a healing blood pool, which I think only comes up one other time in AD, and it's a trap when it does. All the old power-ups make a return, this time though joined by the sharpshooter power-up, which heavily tightens the spread on your shotguns. And the nail piercer, which ups nail damage and makes them pass through enemies, but when I tested it out in the shooting range, it reported 0 damage. A bunch of new enemy types have been added too, several coming from Hexen 2, some from the Quake 1 expansions, and there's enough variety now that even after a couple edits, I'm still going to forget something, or not want to spoil them. Starting at the bottom and working up, spiders are one of the Hexen 2 enemies that have been ported over here, and they come in physical and poison varieties. Arachnophobes will be happy to know they're not the most common enemies, but they do tend to jump scare you with a loud ass hiss. Lost souls will show up too, and unfortunately these are the dipshit variety that explode when they die. Evil humans have mostly only had visual variations, and they really only appear in a couple levels, but they do consist of a couple new problems to solve. Guys with grenade and rocket launchers, flamethrower troopers, they even get a couple of flying units. Guys with the plasma gun who stand on flying discs, and mechanical drones that look like they explode on death, but cause no splash damage as far as I can tell. No new doggos sadly, but this Strog looking motherfucker shows up 2 or 3 times on hard when you play Crucial Era. Medieval and monstrous enemies are fleshed out the most. There's now zombie knights who have to be jibbed like normal zombies and they get a leap attack. Ogres have had a couple of variants added, including this guy in gold armor with a hammer that does a slam attack, which you need to jump to avoid. Death Knights come in quite a collectible range now. A couple of purely visual changes, but the guys who do have new attacks are not to be fucked around with, lest you find out. Scimitar Knights get a couple of projectile spreads and a feigned leap, and these flail guys fire seeking projectiles almost as ridiculous as the Vors. Speaking of the Vor, that gets a couple of variants too, which lose their seeking bombs at long range in exchange for putting out little eggs that hatch into a couple of different small swarm enemies, depending on the Vor's colour. There are a handful more monster editions and variants I haven't mentioned, but if you pay attention, you might see a few of them in the footage. AD adds in destructible materials, which gives some maps just a little element of interactivity, but on others it becomes a really noteworthy factor. Dark brown wooden objects tend to be breakable, brown containers and tech levels can usually be destroyed, and stained glass windows should always be scrutinized, whether they're cracked or not.
I I am the queen of the universe. The waves part, and they engulf me, and the water is warm.
By fucking far, the biggest appeal of Arcdom to me is that I feel like it truly delivers on the dimension hopping that Quake originally advertised. The only mod I've played that got close to giving the same feeling while also remaining inarguably Quakey was Nahara, a mod I haven't thought about, let alone played, in close to a decade, and which still doesn't quite reach the same tier as Arcane. In my AMC squad review, I said you could probably take a screenshot at a random point of almost any mission, and I'd be able to tell what level it is and where exactly you're up to. And the same applies here. Each one of Arcane's levels has its own super distinct look and architecture. Shit, the hub level itself shows this off by having the aesthetic of each world bleed into the hub through their level portals. In fact, I could probably go a step further and say guessing at the level would even be doable if you turned off all of the textures. Because the different levels being made by entirely different mappers means the most basic elements of level geometry have their own personalized touches. For now, I'll just show off what you might call the critical path levels with no spoilers. Obsessive Brick Disorder is a world of brown tiles and angles that are multiples of 15 degrees. OBD uses wind tunnels to shuffle you around in a way that makes you feel disoriented, and tests your reaction speed if you want to get into some of the secrets. It's also the one where it's the quickest and easiest to get your hands on the Widowmaker. Firetop Mountain is a dark and dreary dungeon crawl into the depths of a volcano, fighting off knights and ogres with a buckshot. Black and grey textures everywhere, really only broken by magma once you hit the lowest floors. There's a lot of magic tomes to read here, but I'll save that for the spoiler section later. The only hint I'll drop about it for now being that probably half the level's content is missable if you don't pay attention. Foggy Bogbottom is one of the twistiest, most complicated levels in AD, and it takes me the longest to complete of the 4 main missions. Green mossy bricks and lit windows sit above grungy Quake water, and it's probably the most dynamic level of the critical path. Monsters here love smashing through walls and doors, but you can break about as much stuff as they can. Shortcuts open up all over the goddamn place, which makes the map even more of a sprawling network of holes as you get further and further in. Crucial Error is the big bastard tech-based level of the critical path, and it too contains a fair amount of geometry destruction, albeit this time with a lot more explosions. Hell, the opening seconds of the mission are you swiftly escaping the tram you entered on as it falls into the lava. Flying drones and spiders break up the encounters with corrupted humans and dogs, and I enjoy how a notable amount of this level involves squeezing into vents or blowing your way into in-between gaps and maintenance accesses, where you can see the circuitry and wires and pipes that keep the base running. To be very clear though, you'd be cheating yourself out of some great experiences if you only played the 4 levels necessary to get to the final one. Now, here's your fair warning. Part 3 of this video is going to be stuff I think you should experience yourself. There'll be links in the description to where you can get the recommended ports, and Arcane Dimensions itself, and to the store pages for Quake 1, since you need the game's base files for Quake Spasm to run like with most other boomer shooter source ports. Now, here's your timestamp to skip the spoilery bit and go into the summary at the end. You've got about 10 seconds if you don't want me ruining some of the really special stuff. Anyone who's played Arcane is probably suspicious that I went out of my way to exclude Hex and 2's necromancers when I was talking about new enemies. My logic behind that is that they're often related to a level's super secrets or where you collect the runes and similar objects. For example, in Foggy Bogbottom, you will largely see these guys once you start hunting around for the Necronomicons spread around. Or in Firetop Mountain, there's a notable fight with a lot of them once you get onto the true path. Obsessive Brick Disorder's rune is probably the easiest to get. All it requires is you hitting a couple of buttons, which will summon a lot of necromancers into the last fight, doing a little tomfoolery with the crushers in the last arena, and then looping around so that you re-enter the last arena from above, falling on top of a raised crusher, nabbing the rune, and instantly you're out. Firetop Mountains is the second easiest. If you read the story times that can be found around the level, you will be explicitly warned of what happened to the last guy that tried to kill the demon under the mountain. You hit a shoot switch, take a lift back up, and start seeing that ghostly Death Knight. He warns you the magic rune was corrupted and gives you a side quest that involves collecting bones from blood-splattered medieval air vents. Crucial Era is a bit easier because the level isn't as maze-like, and you only need to collect 4 items, these circuit boards. You'll largely find them in secrets and places just slightly out of the way. Picking them up automatically sends them to be slotted into these panels at the very bottom of the level. Once you have all of them, you can head inside the now unlocked door, grab the rune, murder a bunch of necromancers who hassle you in the surrounding rooms, and head to the final encounter, which will now have a bunch of extra spiders in it. Foggy Bogbottom is the one that actually gives me pause. It can sometimes take me upwards of 2 or 3 hours to finish this level while finding all of the tomes of power without a guide, as the secrets you have to find here require exceptional observation skills and spatial awareness to figure out where all the little hidden areas are. This run was the first time I've ever managed to get all of them without looking up where they are. If you want everything the level has to offer, you're also going to have to be careful about how you use the silver key. Using it in the wrong place will cut you off from getting all the secrets, including the rocket launcher. Necromancers will hassle you in most rooms containing these tomes of power, but I'm not sure if or how it affects the final arena, since I'm pretty sure these explosive launching tentacle monsters are there regardless. Once you've got all 4 runes, you can slip into a secret you might have already found in the hub map, and this time the portal in there won't spit you back out up above. The secret map is a credits gallery of sorts, but don't be fooled into thinking that's all. Doing a due diligence by ignoring the exit portal and continuing to explore will have you more than likely find a pedestal without a book, and breaking the floor and hitting a switch will kick off all the combat encounters in the level. Jump down to get some weapons, and some monsters will start spawning as you climb back up, culminating in a very easy mini-boss fight with another Minotaur thing. But you're still not done yet. There's heaps of great levels to go through. Grendel's Blade disappointed me the last time I played it. It is a very fun level if all you do is the main path and leave. But I looked up at the sword, saw all those red runes on it, and I remembered.
Oh fuck, of course.
So, knowing this run would be close to an hour, and I'd eventually have to give up and look at a video to figure out where the last ones were anyway, I put my earbuds into my headset and got to work with a podcast going.
For instance, when he goes to Walmart, he might see a cheese aisle that looks like this. Now let's see what's in this cheese aisle in this Walmart chat. I see, cheddar, Fiesta Blend, mild cheddar, cheddar jack, medium cheddar, mild cheddar, Colby Jack, sharp cheddar, triple cheddar, taco blend, quesadilla check, extra sharp cheddar. Wow, so many kinds of cheddar, chat.
I won't ruin what going through this process does, but I consider it kind of a fucking letdown when you compare it to what's in other levels. Like... Tears of the False God is a humongous map where you have to collect tokens called hallowed shards. All the non-monstrous enemies get a new look for this level. It has a couple unique enemies and some bosses from other maps in the mix. And it brings together things from all the other mainline maps and a couple of the extra ones, which is why I left talking about it at all until the spoiler section. This map is incredibly open and yet still has a lot of nice little secrets and destructibles for you to get into. There's some cool power-ups here. You get a shield that negates lava and supposedly fire damage, although that doesn't really matter on this level, and a diving suit that doesn't time out like bow suits usually do. The double jump boots are a huge boon and critical to getting all of the shards, but hidden away on a hard to notice cliff, there's also a belt that negates splash damage. all splash damage, meaning you can rocket jump to your heart's content, and you also won't get hurt by things like Hammer Ogre slams, Katon's explosions, and a few other things. Man, even the little Easter egg areas from going into the backsides of the boss portal have fantastic visual design to them. It blows me away how much effort went into this map. Well, all of the maps, to be fair. Then, once you have every token in the level, you dive down and find a new passage has opened up, to an absolute shitshow of a fight against huge waves of enemies, where you're quietly timed on your completion. Personally, I've never even beaten the bronze time, but I do kinda blame that on how some of the scripted walls take forever to lower and allow the monsters out. Once you're done, step into the exit and you'll get teleported back to the main hub. You can dive into the Nightmare difficulty secret and really test yourself, but remember, there's an entire other hub of levels to do, which are still just as different from each other and just as worthwhile playing as the ones in the first hub. Of particular note in that second hub is the level Leptis Magna, another humongous level where the eponymous city was stolen by humans and then recaptured by the monsters. Full disclosure, I have not touched this level before this playthrough, so it's entirely new to me, and I didn't even complete this attempt at it. I found less than half the secrets, went into the boss fight without the last of the 4 tomes of power, and I didn't get the Blood Rune key. This was mostly because I didn't want to end up with a 50GB video file sitting on my SSD because of the several hours it would have taken me to thoroughly discover everything without using a video guide. Leptis Magna really is the Tears of the False Gods of the second hub, bringing together every other part of Quake and AD into just a fantastic little package. The Widowmaker and Doomish Plasma Gun are here, the secrets are really interesting and thought-provoking, there's heavy use of monster variants, and god damn do both the monsters and you wreck the utter shit out of this city. It also introduced me to a bug I've never seen playing a single player game before, where a packet overflow happens from the sheer number of enemies in a couple of encounters, which seem to make my gun stop firing projectiles and just become hit scans, and make monsters just pop out of existence.
It could be a miracle, it could be bullshit. There's only one thing we know for sure.
What's that?
It's a goddamn gold mine.
Arcane Dimensions really is the best Quake mod I've played. Granted, I haven't played anywhere near as many as I have Doom or Stalker mods. There's just so much quality and atmosphere and challenge here that it's one of those things I can't believe we get to have for free. And as with AMC Squad or Stalker Anomaly, that free part is really important. You can just go and get this fucking game whenever you want. It'll take probably 2 minutes to download, and it can run on most potato systems you've seen, like school laptops or shitty business units. If you like shooters and you're not some absolute degenerate who needs to have 4K textures and tactical gun wankery and motion blur and temporal anti-aliasing to be able to play a game, you really have no excuse not to do yourself this favor and try it out. As with my previous review, I haven't covered everything in the mod, partly, like I said, because I don't want my drives full of just Quake footage, but also to encourage you to go and find out for yourself. Now, with all that said, thank you very much for watching my second review. I have some ideas of reviews I want to do in coming months, but I want them to be a bit less straightforward and simple than this one was. Unfortunately, I'm split in a bunch of different directions. I'm trying to finally finish Neo 2's story, I'm replaying RE4, I'm grinding out a bunch of gear in Monster Hunter World, and while writing this, playing Soul Reaver and the English translation of Shadow Tower Abyss have been added onto that list. That's before accounting for new and upcoming releases, like the Elden Ring DLC coming soon, or that I'm trying to get money together for Helldivers 2. Now, I'm off to go crawl under a rock somewhere for an extended depression nap and to cross some things off my gaming list. Be safe, everybody, and I will see you when I see you.